This is Radioactive Banana, and it's December 12th, 2021 at 7:53 p.m. And this is part 4 of my Bioweapons and Puppies playlist. And today we're going to go over so many different topics, and so I'm excited to show you what I found. In my investigations, I go one video at a time using an official document or an article, and from there I do all sorts of research trying to figure out all the different parts of a subject. And I'm always amazed at what I find. I really am. And I'm sure you'll be surprised too as we go through this document. I'm going to start here first at the United Nations, and let's read a little bit about the Biological Weapons Convention. All right, the biological weapons disseminate disease-causing organisms or toxins to harm or kill humans, animals, or plants. They can be deadly and highly contagious. Diseases caused by such weapons could not confine themselves to national borders and could spread rapidly around the world. The consequences of the deliberate release of biological agents or toxins by state or non-state actors could be dramatic. In addition to the tragic loss of life, such events could cause food shortages, environmental catastrophes, devastating economic loss, and widespread illness, fear, and mistrust among the public. And this seems what is happening right now. The Biological Weapons Convention. The Biological Weapons Convention effectively prohibits the development, production, acquisition, transfer, stockpiling, and use of biological and toxin weapons. It was the first multilateral disarmament treaty banning an entire category of weapons of mass destruction. The BWC is a key element in the international community's efforts to address WMD proliferation, and it has established a strong norm against biological weapons. The convention has reached almost universal membership with 183 states parties and 4 signatory states. And down below we will find the key provisions of the convention, and we'll go over those later. But here we have this treaty that all these countries have signed saying they are not going to develop, produce, acquire, transfer, or stockpile biological and toxin weapons. And here is the list of countries here that have signed on to this. Right here we have the number of signatory states, 109, and the number of states parties, 183. Here below you can see the countries are all named off here to the left, and in 1972 is when this document was opened for signing, and by 1975 it had been ratified by many countries, and then some countries just acceded to it. They agreed that it should be done. And I'm just going to scroll through these countries really fast, and you can see how many there are. It's just a whole lot of countries that have signed a document saying they are not going to produce any weapons of mass destruction. They are not going to be doing it. So I wanted to just show you this vast list of people that have all agreed that they are not going to develop, stockpile, transfer bioweapons. But when we look here at Dilyana's paper called the Pentagon Bio-weapons, we see that Battelle, as a $59 million subcontractor at Lugar Center, has extensive experience in research on bioagents, as the company has already worked on the U.S. bioweapons program under 11 previous contracts with the U.S. Army. So this document was acquired from this U.S. Army activities, and it states that from 52 to 66, Battelle Memorial Institute had contracts working with bioagents at U.S. Bioweapons Lab. And let's take a look at this document here. Here you can see this is 24 February 1977, and this is the Army's activity on biological warfare programs. And we had signed, and it was ratified, the Biological Weapons Convention Treaty by 1975. So you can see that this program continued on even though they signed with the UN. Now let's take a little bit deeper look into Battelle. And it says this private company performs work for the Pentagon's DTRA Bio-laboratories in Afghanistan, Armenia, Georgia, Uganda, Tanzania, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Vietnam. Battelle conducts research, development, testing, and evaluation using both highly toxic chemicals and highly pathogenic biological agents for a wide range of U.S. government agencies. It has been awarded some 2 billion federal contracts in total and ranks 23 on the top 100 U.S. government contractors list. The CIA Battelle Project Clear Vision. Between 1997 and 2000, a joint investigation by the CIA and Battelle Memorial Institute under a contract awarded by the agency reconstructed and tested a Soviet-era anthrax bomblet in order to test its dissemination characteristics. The project's stated goal was to assess bioagents' dissemination characteristics of bomblets. The clandestine CIA Battelle operation was omitted from the U.S. Biological Weapons Convention declarations submitted to the UN. And so here you see in 1997 and 2000, the CIA and Battelle are using anthrax bomblets, violating the Biological Weapons Convention. And its very first article saying, undertaking never, under any circumstances, to develop, produce, stockpile, and acquire or retain biological weapons. And you can see from Dilyana's article that they were absolutely continuing on with bioweapons, and there's just no way that the UN could not know about this. Now let's do a little bit more research on Battelle and the Lovelace Respiratory Facility and CH2M Hill, because they all seem to be two-faced. On one face, they have their traditional, corporation, their worldwide corporations, Battelle and CH2M Hill, and doing good for the people and building and helping in science. And on the other hand, they are also working in bioweapons. And so let's look at that a little bit. Battelle Memorial Institute is a private, nonprofit applied science and technology development company headquartered in Columbus, Ohio. Battelle is a charitable trust organized as a nonprofit corporation under the laws of the state of Ohio and is exempt from taxation under Section 5013C of the Internal Revenue Code because it is organized for charitable, scientific, and educational purposes. And in my past videos on Afghanistan, I talked about trusts, and I talked about how businesses can have all their profits go into a trust, and then they get paid, say, every 2 weeks or once a month, and they never get taxed on it. So not only would they not get taxed on extra money made at a nonprofit, they also have this charitable trust that they can put extra money made from the nonprofit into, and so nobody ever can get into this or look at this or audit this. And this is the problem. We need to be able to audit all these trusts and see who is in all these trusts. All right. So Battelle is very large, and they do contract research business. And here's some of their contracts. Agribusiness, look at that, cannabis research. Ecology and environment, health, material sciences, national security, research infrastructure, and STEM education. And then they have offices in Maryland, Ohio, Washington, Virginia, Massachusetts, Colorado, and New Jersey. And Battelle also works with the Department of Energy, and it manages its national laboratories: Brookhaven National Laboratory, Idaho National Laboratory, Lawrence Livermore, Los Alamos National Renewable Energy Laboratory, Oak Ridge National Laboratory, Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, and works for the DHS on national biodefense analysis and countermeasures. And in 2016, Battelle was selected to manage the completion of the National Ecological Observatory Network, or NEON, for the National Science Foundation. Let's take a look at that. The NEON is a large facility program operated by Battelle Memorial Institute and funded by the National Science Foundation. In full operation since 2019, NEON gathers and provides long-term standardized data on ecological responses of the biosphere to changes in land use and climate, and on feedback with the geosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. NEON is a continental-scale research platform for understanding how and why our ecosystems are changing. And this would be the program that would be working to take your private property from you. And it will come up with all the data on how the use of land is affecting the climate. Yes, this is who we can point our fingers at, would be Battelle. Now, Battelle also got a huge contract of $400 million to decontaminate N95 masks in 2020. A massive $400 million right here. Can you imagine? They are a busy bee. Here is Battelle's front face, and we can see they're in health, environment, national security, infrastructure, and industry. These are their markets. And this one, let's check it out, chemical and biological threat. Battelle sets the standard in foreseeing, assessing, and responding to chemical and biological threats. Our proactive approach combines a legacy of research and testing with world-renowned expertise and innovation. Yes, the company that is working in bioweapons also happens to clean up bioweapons. Isn't that just fantastic, ladies and gentlemen? You see their two faces here? Now, if we go to the main page and scroll down, we just have a great mission statement. The foundation of our organization's vision and mission can be traced back to the work of the steel industrialist Gordon Battelle. In his 1923 last will and testament, Gordon Battelle stated, "Translate scientific discovery and technology advances into societal benefits for the purpose of education in connection with and the encouragement of creative and research work in the making of discoveries and inventions to do the greatest good for humanity." Yes, what a crock of shit. What a crock of shit when you're working with bioagents. But you see how great everything sounds? Do you see how they make things seem romantic? And they were just doing good for humanity. And this is their public face. And then we also have CH2M Hill. And CH2M Hill worked in real estate and construction, construction management, project management, construction and design, engineering, and infrastructure. It says CH2M Hill is a global engineering services company. It provides consulting, design, construction management, project management, program management, and operations management to governments, communities, businesses, and organizations. The company serves transportation, water, environment, nuclear energy, and other markets. But just like everyone else, CH2M Hill has been acquired by Jacobs. Jacobs completes CH2M Hill acquisition, creating a $15 billion professional services leader focused on delivering innovative solutions for a more connected and sustainable world. Blah, 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 blah. This means nothing. But so now Jacobs Engineering is now the new name for CH2M Hill, because they love to change the names and confuse us all the time. It's more difficult to find. But remember, CH2M Hill was awarded $341.5 million in DTRA contracts under the Pentagon's program for biolaboratories in Georgia, Uganda, Tanzania, Iraq, Afghanistan, Southeast Asia. Half of this sum, $161.1 million, being allocated to the Lugar Center under the Georgian contract. According to CH2M Hill, the U.S. company has secured biological agents and employed former biowarfare scientists at the Lugar Center. These are scientists who are working for another American company involved in the military program in Georgia, Battelle Memorial Institute. Biological agents. What does Article 1 say? Undertaking never under any circumstances to develop, produce, stockpile, acquire, or retain biological weapons. Obviously, the U.S. military has violated this act since its very beginning. Now let's look at another two-faced company. Here's Lovelace, and Lovelace is in Albuquerque, and it is a medical system, and says with more than 280 providers, 50 medical specialties, 5 acute care hospitals, 23 clinics, and 5 emergency rooms, we pride ourselves on being a patient-centered healthcare solution in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so here's the front face, the good face, the face of the community in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But at the same time, Lovelace was very much involved in doing plutonium studies on puppies and beagles, which is also violating the Bioweapons Convention. But let's look at Lovelace. Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute. Lovelace Biomedical Research Institute is a private contract research organization founded after World War II in Albuquerque, New Mexico by 2 physicians, William Randolph Lovelace I and his nephew, Surgeon William Randolph Lovelace II. LRRI originally performed nonprofit biomedical research into the prevention, treatment, and cure of respiratory disease. The organization expanded with military grants into the research and development of CBRNE, which is chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense, setting up a lab inside Kirkland Air Force Base, preclinical contract research for drug development, clinical trials, and in 1998, the study of mental illness by providing neuroimaging and big data analysis with machine learning. The U.S. Department of Agriculture found that they violated Animal Welfare Act on multiple occasions since 2008. In 2018, its name appeared in the European Dieselgate scandal. Do you remember that, when VW was not really following the emissions policy of the United States? And one of the things they did an experiment. They were going to show that their diesel was not bad coming out of their exhaust. And so what they did was they were going to take a couple monkeys and put them in a cube, and a person and put them in an enclosed cube, and pipe in exhaust into these cubes to show that there was no problems with the diesel emissions coming out of their cars. And this test was done by the Lovelace research facility. No one else would do it. But the Lovelace research facility, they did do it. And so they got in trouble for it. Has 2 main locations, both in Albuquerque. Most of Lovelace's funding comes from the U.S. Gov and private grants. As of 2008, it was spending more than $60 million to fight against respiratory diseases such as asthma, emphysema, lung cancer, bronchitis, and allergies. And as of 2018, Lovelace consists of numerous companies per its website. And so it just owns all kinds of different businesses, and you can check this out. It also had another problem in March of 2008. In 2009, USDA found that they violated the Animal Welfare Act on 9 occasions, including the death of a monkey and escape of another monkey. In 2011, LRRI was fined close to $22,000, and in 2015, federal inspectors reported that it investigated because an untrained technician's actions resulted in the death of a research dog. From August 2012 to March 2014, the DOA found that 5 monkeys and 4 rabbits died at LRRI, violating the Federal Animal Welfare Act 6 times In 2012, Lovelace reduced the number of monkeys from 951 to 646, the number of dogs from 293 to 183 within a short period, per USDA animal inventory reports. As of 2014, Lovelace still used 431 primates and outnumbered all U.S. institutions performing primate experiments like Battelle Memorial Institute, which has 270, or Fort Detrick, which has 249. In January 2018, the New York Times reported that in 2014, the LRRI studied the health effects of up to 4 hours of diesel exhaust exposure on 10 monkeys. An organization called the European Research Group on Environment and Health in Transport Sector paid for the research and was jointly funded by Volkswagen, Daimler, and BMW. All Nazi organizations. Yes, if you have seen my Nazi playlist, these guys since 1944 were all going to work on the Fourth Reich. All right, the LRRI declined an interview but confirmed conducting animal testing in a statement that said scientists unknowingly tested exhaust of an emissions-cheating vehicle built by Volkswagen and that it was nearly duped into compromised Volkswagen diesel research. The study has not been published yet. And you can find a video on this on Netflix in their Dark Money series. And they go over this whole story of Volkswagen. But this was just crazy when they were going to put exhaust in this, cube that this person was sitting in and these monkeys are in. Everyone should know if you turned your car on in your garage with your garage door closed, there's going to be a buildup of CO2 and it's going to kill you. So this was just unreal that they did this study. Here we have 3 corporations, Battelle Memorial Institute, CH2M Hill, and the Lovelace Respiratory Research Institute. All 3 of them have a corporate face in America, but then they also have a secret face, which is working in the bioweapons labs. CH2M Hill now is no longer in existence because Jacobs Engineering Group has bought it. And when I read through their information, it looks like that they have chopped up CH2M Hill. They've sold off the energy, chemicals, and resource segment to Worley Parsons. And energy makes me think of, radioactive isotopes. And chemicals is extremely generic, and so is resources. Biological agents, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if this is the division that was working in the bioweapons labs that's been sold off. But it also says of Jacobs that in April 2021, the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy listed the top 55 corporations that paid $0 in taxes for the year 2020. Jacobs' federal income taxes for that year were a negative $37 million for an effective tax rate of minus 17.4%. And that seems really surprising that this massive engineering firm, at least in the United States, has a negative $37 million, especially when they're getting $4.6 billion for research. But this is for the military part, and so they probably keep that separate. But we can also see that these corporations are nonprofits. They're exempt from taxation, and that's the same thing with Lovelace. It says down here, most of Lovelace's funding comes from the United States government and private grants. As of 2008, it was spending more than $60 million to fight against respiratory diseases such as asthma, emphysema, lung cancer, bronchitis, and allergies. And so with the Lovelace facility, I'm wondering, do they have 2 different labs? Do they have the lab for the one side of their face, which is working on asthma and emphysema and these things right here? And then they have another lab, which is using radioactive isotopes on beagles. Are these 2, separate labs? I would imagine they are. But in these 3 companies, we can see that they are violating the key provisions of the Bioweapons Convention Treaty from the UN. When we go and look at the documents that I've shown in the previous videos from Dilyana's The Pentagon Bio-weapons article, as well as the radioactive beagles in the previous video, you can see that the government is stockpiling, is acquiring, is retaining biological weapons. And the UN has to know this. This has been going on since 1952. And so it's hard to believe that the UN says nothing about it. It's really quite surprising. Now let's just take a look at this propaganda piece by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. The New Killer Pathogens, Countering the Coming Bioweapons Threat, April 17th, 2018, Foreign Affairs, by Catherine Charlotte. Recent breakthroughs in gene editing have generated massive excitement, but they have also re-energized fears about weaponized pathogens. Military and political leaders have worried about large-scale biological warfare for more than a century. Blight to destroy crops, anthrax to slay horses and cattle, plague to poison not armies only, but whole districts. Such are the lines along which military science is remorselessly advancing. Winston Churchill lamented in 1925, but despite the deadly potential of biological weapons, their actual use remains rare and mostly small scale. Over the last several decades, most states have given up their programs. Today, no country is openly pursuing biological weapons. This, on its face, is a lie. This is an absolute lie, because I've shown you Dilyana's Pentagon Bio-weapons article, and it talks about the DOD bioweapons labs. This is a complete cover-up article. So you see how they have their really large, important nonprofits write these documents, and then everyone repeats it? This is crap. Recent breakthroughs in gene editing have generated massive excitement, but they've also re-energized fears about weaponized pathogens. Using gene editing tools, including a system known as CRISPR, scientists are now able to modify an organism's DNA more efficiently, flexibly, and accurately than ever before. The full range of potential applications is hard to predict, but CRISPR makes it much easier for scientists to produce changes in how organisms operate. Isn't that great? They have an article that talks about how easy it is to modify someone's DNA. Maybe they might use an mRNA product. I'm not sure. These technologies offer vast potential for global good. Researchers are studying the new use of gene editing techniques to fix deadly genetic mutations, create disease-resistant crops, and treat cancer. Top scientists at Harvard are pursuing medical applications once thought to be out of reach, such as age reversal and transplanting pig organs into humans. Geez, that doesn't sound like a good idea, does it? But it's not hard to imagine how gene editing technologies could be misused. Some fear that terrorists with even moderate capabilities could develop deadlier pathogens, and laboratories appealing to parents' instincts to offer advantages to their children could modify embryos in ways that cross ethical boundaries. I'm sure that's what they're doing. One of the most worrisome questions today is whether advances in biotechnology could tempt states to revive their old biological weapons programs or start new ones. What a worrisome thing that is, since they've already been going since 1952. The DOD has 25 bioweapons labs in foreign countries and uses U.S. universities also to house BSL-4 labs with pathological items, biological weapons, on campuses in the United States. This is outrageous. All right, Such an outcome would drastically undermine the progress of the last several decades. A revitalization of state biological weapons programs could trigger new conflicts or rekindle old arms races, destabilizing the international order. Oh, they've spent decades destabilizing the national order, the international order. The things they've done would blow your mind. Faced with extremes of promise and peril, policymakers must proceed with a sense of perspective. Fear-mongering or overregulation could undercut the almost unimaginable benefits of the biotechnology revolution. But failing to anticipate and manage the significant risks, include the resurgence of state biological weapons programs, would be equally problematic. We wouldn't want to fearmonger or overregulate these new technologies, and somehow, if we do, this might lead somehow to resurgence of the state biological weapons programs. Well, there's not going to be a resurgent Carnegie, which is controlled by the Rockefellers, because we already have them. Our bioweapons program has been going strong since actually 1945, and the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace would have you believe that this is not happening at all. There are no bioweapons labs that are running right now. But in my investigation, I've already proven that there are bioweapons labs running in the United States and throughout the world. If you read through the rest of the article, you find that the writer is constantly telling you that nobody is using biological weapons. They're just too dangerous and could be such a havoc on society that nobody's using them. And as a matter of fact, if you were using them, other countries would just create such peer pressure against you because you would just be considered a pariah because these weapons are just so terribly bad. But if you come down to this paragraph, it says, the vast majority of states, 180 of them, are parties to the 1972 Biological Weapons Convention, which bans the development, stockpiling, acquisition, retention, and production of biological agents for non-peaceful purposes. Although the treaty is often criticized for its lack of meaningful enforcement mechanisms, it has helped establish a global norm that using biological weapons is immoral and unacceptable. Of course, we know that this article is just cover for the biological weapons and to help people who don't do any research at all ease their minds. So they might think, oh, geez, that's great. I'm so glad we have control of these biological weapons, even though we don't have any meaningful enforcement mechanism. And you have to ask why. So you created this treaty. You definitely have NATO troops. So you could use NATO troops to arrest all these scientists participating in the bioweapons labs, as well as the ones in universities. They say they don't have a meaningful enforcement mechanism, but they certainly have NATO troops that absolutely work for the UN, so they can enforce it. But let's read this. Today, any state that used biological weapons, genetically edited or otherwise, would meet severe reprisal from other states seeking to defend the norm of non-use. Breaking the status quo, even on a small scale, would turn any country into a pariah. And this is just such crap writing. It's an incredible lie. India's not yelling at Pakistan or Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. Nobody knows that these exist in their countries, so nobody can speak out against them. I will attach this article so you can read it and you can see what absolute propaganda it is. It also talks about the possibility of the resurgence of bioweapons labs opening back up in the US. And it's like, are you kidding me? They're already open, they're already going. But they want to plant this in people's heads. The UN, the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, want you to believe that these bioweapons labs don't exist and they're not making bizarre things with the gene editing system called CRISPR. No, all that could happen in the future, but it's not happening right now. Oh, I think it is happening. I think they've used this technology for quite a while. If they're just bringing it out to the public over the last, 5, 6 years, they've been able to do it for a while. All these companies are violating the Bioweapons Convention. The UN is violating its Bioweapons Convention by pretending that these facilities don't exist. And they're literally in Russia, in France, in Germany. I mean, they are all over the place. And they just want to pretend they don't exist. But they do exist. And I also want to state that, I'm doing a series on these bioweapons and all this information that I'm finding. It's an investigation that I'm doing. And each video, I just find really interesting pieces that I want to share with you. And so sometimes I may make a comment on information that was in another video. And because I'm not going to repeat information from another video, because you can go and check it out. Yeah, because it all ties together, starting from video 1 and then moving on through the numbers under this bioweapons investigation. In this video, I showed you the United Nations Biological Weapons Convention Treaty and showed you also the countries that had signed the treaty. And even though they had signed this in 1975, we find that biological weapons actually have continued on since then, and the UN pretends they don't exist. Though the UN has the NATO troops to enforce the Biological Weapons Convention Treaty, they do not do it. And what we also saw is that there are corporations that have two faces, such as the Battelle Memorial Institute. It has its public face, in which it works in all these markets. And at the same time, it works for the Pentagon Bio-weapons. And we can see they had a $59 million contract with Lugar Center in Tbilisi, Georgia. Though these bioweapons programs by the U.S. government have been going since 1945, we have the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace telling us just the opposite of what I have found in my research, that these biolabs don't exist, that if they did exist, countries would put pressure on each other so that they would not exist. This is a massive propaganda piece, and I like to be able to show you these two, opposing faces. Here we can actually show that the bioweapons labs exist, and at the same time, we have, really big deal, facilities, really big deal nonprofits like the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace writing this in 2018, and it's a crock of shit. And so people need to see that these bioweapons programs have been covered up, and they have been covered up at the highest level of information that we have, at these nonprofits, at these think tanks, and through the mainstream media, through magazines, through various books and publications. All this is propaganda so that we will never go and find what's actually being done at the DOD bioweapons labs. Well, thank you for stopping by and listening to this video, and I will have others to add on to this. So I hope you enjoy it, and please share with other people The more we spread the knowledge about these bioweapons labs, the more we can shut them down. This is Radioactive Banana, signing out.